I appreciate it.
Yep. Yes, sir.
All right, well, I would like to call this meeting to order, the Board of Directors meeting, Central Midlands Council of Governments. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here. It means a lot, and we can get a lot done, I believe, today, especially if 5 more friends come. But we have some important things to talk about today, and I'm going to change one thing on the agenda. We're going to, in just a moment, we're going to recognize Casey Police Officer Mr. Drew Barr and Andrew Simmons, who's a longtime COG staff member. And that's it for the agenda, but we'll take a vote later to approve it. I'm pretty sure y'all are doing that. And we ready to do slides? Yes. All right. I'm going to ask us first to stand, please. Those of you online, I suggest you stand as well. And Ben, can you put the next slide? First, we want to remember today, y'all know, a tragic story. Officer Andrew Drew Barr, Casey police officer who died in the line of duty Saturday night, Sunday morning. Just an outstanding person. Quite remarkable. He did 3 different public service activities: law enforcement, fire, and EMT, and just beloved by all. And we extend our condolences to the Barr family. We all know that his funeral's today at Batesburg Leesville High School, and then the burial at Mount Eagle Baptist Church Cemetery. But a sad, tragic day. We hold him up, salute him and his family for his great contributions, and send our condolences to Casey as well. And then also Andrew Simmons. Ben, he was a longtime COG staff member.
Yes, sir, he was. Andrew worked with the COG for over 20 years. I don't know if y'all remember him. For some of the board members that have been on the board for a while, Andrew is the gentleman that had the English accent, and he was our information services manager. So he was a census data guru, contacted all of your departments, getting building permits, so he did population projections. Andrew he never met a stranger. He's just a really great guy. We're going to be remembering him this weekend, but just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Very good. Well, thank you. We're going to have a moment of silence for Officer Barr and Mr. Simmons, and then Mr. Smokey Davis will have our invocation, please, after that. Thank you.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you this afternoon with grateful hearts, grateful for your love, for our community, and for each one of us individually. We pray for the families that have lost loved ones. We share their grief. Thank you for caring for us and providing a place. We love you and ask your continued guidance on this organization and our communities. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right. Thank you for that. And we're going to get on in our agenda. Appreciate y'all's time and attention. Introduction of new staff is next on agenda item number 5. And we're excited. Got some new folks. How about talk to us, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm really excited to introduce some new staff members that we have. We spend a lot of time when we go through the interview process, and I would like to say we have some excellent staff. First, I'd like to introduce Melissa Labib. She is our CMCOG Finance Director. She's over here in the corner. Welcome, Missy. And then under the Central Midlands AAA under Candace Holloway, I'd like to introduce Artilla Shaw. She's our family caregiver coordinator.
How about to both y'all stand, please, and folks online can hopefully pick up with y'all. Thank y'all. Welcome.
That's Ms. Shaw. Ms. Hope McFadden. She is going to be the AAA finance manager. Antoinette Davis, information and referral and assistant specialist. And Ms. Ebony Davis, she's not here. She's out here. She's out in the field actually doing assessments at this time. So I just ask everyone to welcome them and give them a quick round of applause.
Thank y'all. We're excited y'all are joining Central Midlands Council of Governments. So y'all do great work. Continue what the staff is doing, and appreciate y'all joining. All All right, and Chairman's introduction. We had some good news from the COG. Mayor Parson, Casey was gonna be our regional spotlight and scheduled for a few weeks. Of course, she has a lot on her. We extend our sympathies as mentioned to Mayor Parson and Casey. She will join us next month to give us the Casey update. Ben, tell us about good news from around the COG. We had someone else dial in the last minute. They could identify themselves.
Next slide.
All right, here we go.
I got lots of good news going on around the COG. The first I was going to talk about is workforce. The third cohort of the Creative Opportunity Columbia that we talked about in the past started on April 25th. Of the 22 trainees in the group, 15 of them are WIOA Workforce Improvement Opportunity Act participants. This trains people from diverse non-IT backgrounds to become software engineers. So after 6 months of training, these folks will actually be employed as software engineers around the Midwest. I'm really excited about that. In the Ombudsman program, the program Sheila Belfort just did on April the 13th, advanced directives training, where she talked about the living will, South Carolina healthcare power of attorney, and 5 wishes. It was a very informative training, and folks actually were able to receive continuing education units. We also have this training scheduled in September, and it's highly recommended. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the long-term Ombudsman program annual volunteer appreciation luncheon that we just had about a week ago on April 20th. April is National Volunteer Appreciation Month, and we had the opportunity to thank all of our volunteers. And this is a luncheon that actually Victoria is the one that helps host it. Victoria and Anna, she did a wonderful job. We had some special guests. We had Chairman Sin there, as well as Rebecca Connolly and Julian Dixon Richardson, who's a radar attendant. We wanted to thank them for all of their participation.
It was really nice. Victoria and Harmony did a great job. And the volunteers are getting back out now. They're winding down on code. So it was a really nice function, and appreciate y'all putting that together.
Last thing I wanted to highlight, I mentioned this earlier in the executive committee. On May the 12th, under Candace Holloway's leadership, we're going to have Senior Day. It's going to be at the Medallion Conference Center off of Garner's Ferry Road. And we'd like to welcome and have you attend if you're welcome to attend if you're available. But we have some special guests. Foster is going to do a welcome to everyone, as well as some other folks around the community. This is a great opportunity for seniors to come out to a vaccination clinic, as well as we're going to be able to provide them a lunch, some, I guess there's going to be a live band and another thing. So it's going to be a really great event. And we ask you just to help us get the word out about this event so we can have seniors actually, come and attend it.
It's open to the public. So we're going to ask all of our counties and towns to put this on their Facebook site or promote it, encourage people to come. Y'all can help. It's going to be a really nice event for our seniors. So we need y'all to join in on the publicity effort. We want to see people there from each town and each county, a bunch. And then the board's welcome too, correct?
That's right.
And we're having
I was going to say.
Chick-fil-A, is that what y'all said? Not returning. We have Chick-fil-A?
No, the products.
The products, oh man, products. That should get y'all.
So live music, games, vaccination clinic. I mean, it's going to be a really nice event.
So please promote it. Thank you.
I was going to say, I'm going to put a flyer out on the front of the website. If you please share that out, I greatly appreciate it. Actually, I'll email that out to you.
Super.
And that's all that.
All right, let's go to news from around the region. I always like to do some highlights. Oh, there's one more.
Sorry. Let's see this. Gregory's staff's been working with the town of Winsboro and the county actually to apply for a backup generator for Jackson Creek wastewater department. And if this goes forward, it'll be a $640,000 grant.
Awesome.
That's it.
All right. We always try to hide news from around the region. We just have 2 things today. Number 1, wasn't this great? South Carolina captures the 2022 National Championship win over UConn. What a display by Dawn Staley and her team. And I would just like us to give them a round of applause, please. This is a little different. I want to show y'all this. I was in Charlotte. This is actually from Charlotte 2 weeks ago, and they were lamenting on the radio that they were named out of 80 cities one of the worst cities to date. One of the worst. And they were mentioned other towns like Atlanta was rated bad. And they talked about the good ones. So you can see that 1 through 10 is the worst. Charles is number 10. Among the best, look at the yellow. Columbia was rated 14th best place to date.
There you go.
Yes, sir. All right, and so maybe this meant a little more to me, Mr. Simmons, because I met my wife in Columbia at the Olive Garden on Decker Boulevard. I told her I was gonna tell that story. She said, "You tell them it was at a church outing and we were introduced by friends." At Olive Garden. I did. So I'm gonna take a little poll today. If you met your spouse, your boyfriend or girlfriend, if you have one, in the Central Midlands region, all 4 counties and the coast area of Kershaw County, if you would raise your hand, if you were part of this survey. That's pretty
Aye.
good. Online, we have some people checking in. All right, so I'm gonna say that survey has some validity then. And so that, I think, is a natural transition to the man who promotes the Midlands. And we are now glad to go to our Central Economic Development Alliance. We're glad to have with us, and going to the front podium, if you would, please, Mr. Nelson Lindsay. He is President and CEO of the Central South Carolina Alliance. He was previously the South Carolina Department of Commerce Director of Global Business Development since 2015, and in his new role with Central SC in October. He's a state certified economic developer. He also serves as Director of Economic Development for Richland and Kershaw counties. He just is doing a great job. He's a native of our region. Did you raise your hand, by the way?
No,
Okay.
I met my wife in at college at the Walker.
Okay, so not too far. All right. Well, Mr. Lindsay, we appreciate your work, and thanks for joining us today. Thanks for the good things going on in Central South Carolina and being with us today.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to be here. I really appreciate being at COG. My first job out of graduate school, I worked for Upper Savannah Council, and I was a roving public administrator, which meant I went to small towns in the region and helped with budgeting and planning and grants, things of that nature. So I understand the work that you do and appreciate the importance of it. And I also appreciate the fact that you have a very long agenda today, and I'm going to be very short because of that. But I want to spend a few minutes talking about what we've seen in the region, Central SC Alliance region here in Columbia, and what trends that we're seeing this year and into next year. So we define our region a little bit different than y'all. Every county that is a member of Central Midlands is in our footprint, but we are a little bit larger. We include all of Kershaw County, as well as Clarendon, Calhoun, and Orangeburg. We have 8 counties plus the city of Columbia. A little bit larger, so when I'm talking about region, it's a little bit larger than what you have. So let's talk about the last couple of years. And if you were to ask me in March of 2020 what kind of year we were going to have, then I would laugh and say, Lord only knows, because everybody was home and we weren't really working. But we wound up the year so much better than I would have thought. I mean, you can see here, activity was good, believe it or not. 69 projects initiated and 34 prospect visits. That is a company that's interested in our region that has come to the visit. Now, what that meant in 2020 was a lot of those were virtual, right? We were traveling, but that's still more than we would have expected. And we ended the year with over $1 billion in capital investment announced and 1,700 jobs. I'm not suggesting that Central SC Alliance has done that. That is at the county. The counties are the ones that closed the deal. But as a region, that's the activity that we saw. And it really carried over into 2021 as well. As I would say, I won't say fully recovered in 2021, but we really were on our way. Strong activity then with over 113 projects initiated and 55 prospects visits, most of which were in person. Again, trying to get back to normal times, and more person to person is always better for us. I mean, this is a relationship building business, and the fact that you can sit across the table certainly is better than virtual, although virtually will do in a pinch. And we had another $1 billion year in capital investment. That's the first time in our region that has ever happened. Part of it is because companies are automating, and that requires a lot of capital investment. And so I don't think that's a trend that's going to go away. But we also had 3,400 jobs announced. Great year if you think about the pandemic. And the vaccine didn't come into the spring, right? So there was a lot of uncertainty in that time, but once that opened up, things really went well for us. And it has continued into this year. We're seeing more activity this year than I've probably seen in 20 plus years. Not just activity, but the size of the projects have been significant. Where we are seeing the most from sectors, automotive, no surprise there, we're an automotive state. But a lot of it has to do with the transition to electric vehicles, right? You see it on TV, you see it, you read about this transition. How many of you own an electric vehicle?
Does hybrid count?
Sure. Okay. How many of you know at least one person that has an electric vehicle? Okay, a little bit more. So what we're seeing is the industry is transitioning very rapidly. General public, buying public probably is further behind. And hopefully it'll catch up when charging stations and things that make sure more prevalent. But what it does is generate a lot of activity for us. And the size of those projects are massive. So we think, over $1 billion, think thousands of jobs in heavy utilities. So normally we wouldn't see many projects of that size, right? If you see one a year, that's great. But we have probably had more already this year than we've had in 20 years. Just the size of it is hard to imagine. Now, we're not going to win. If we win one, that's all that matters, right? Yeah, that's the type of project that can really make a difference. Now, we're not putting all our eggs in one basket and just trying for the big one. We're still working with our normal clients, but the fact is that projects are larger that we're seeing. Food and beverage, very active as well. That came out of before the pandemic, intensified in the pandemic, and even more so now. So think a company like Mark Anthony Brewing, White Claw, that's down on the shop road. That's the type of projects that we're seeing. But the one obstacle to all of our continued growth is labor force and workforce. And one thing we're talking about that over at our table. It's the number one thing that companies ask for. How am I going to find the people that we need to be successful with our company? And not just the number, but the skills. The skills are increasing because of the automation that I mentioned. So if you look at workforce stats from the last 2 years, you can see 2020 obviously was higher. A lot of those folks were in the retail, hospitality industries as those shut down. Look forward to 2021, and it came down to just over 3%. Our latest numbers for the MSA are 3.1. So there's not a lot of unemployed people walking around the street, especially with the skills, right? It's definitely a market in which employees can pick and choose because there's more jobs available than people. And our labor force has actually been relatively stable. The problem is our participation rate, right? So the number that people are simply not working by their own choice is higher than it. The participation rate is low. We need more people to come back into the workforce. And that is a problem if we're going to continue to be successful. So one of the things that we did last year was launch what we call Start Central project. It's a website and jobs portal for our region. And it's really aimed at both talent attraction and talent retention. Because the new battleground in economic development isn't necessarily over companies, it's over talent. So the communities, regions, and states that have the talent will bring the company. So it's a shift in the way that we operate. And we're not getting in the workforce business. This is just simply workforce development business. We're simply trying to assist and support. And so if you go on to startcentralsc.org, you will find jobs that are posted there in our region that our existing companies can post. Or if you're advertising on Indeed, it pulls automatically onto our website. So again, kind of match existing employers with people looking for jobs. And not just jobs, but internships. And I think this is critical to the retention part, right? Because we have the university here, and when they graduate, despite that ranking of one of the worst places to date, Charlotte is a location that a lot of our graduates go to, right? So how do we keep them here? And that's always the big issue. So one way to do it is to get them internships while they're in school, because once you have that, there's hopefully a job opportunity at the end of it. Maybe there's a connection to the community that allows them to stay here rather than seek somewhere else. So internships, job posting, but also it has resources for upgrading your skills. If you've been in retail or restaurant or hotel or whatever it may be, and you say, I don't want to do this anymore. How can I upgrade my skills? There's resources on there to allow you to, look into it and finding a way to upgrade. And then finally, there's quality of life information. If we're trying to attract people here, we need to show what is attractive about our region, from the rivers to the university to the zoo and everything else. The reasons why we like this area. So again, we're trying to connect job seekers with our existing companies and internships. We're trying to give information for those that want to upgrade their skills, and finally the information needed in order for people to want to move here, even if when they find a job. So we're going to put more emphasis on this going forward and launch a digital campaign to again drive more traffic into the site and hopefully bring more people to the community. So that's really brief. That's all. I know you've got a lot left on your agenda, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
This website seems something like our member governments should join in and publicize this.
Absolutely.
And you welcome that.
The more the merrier. I mean, that's the biggest problem is you have a website, but if you can't get it out there, people know about it. It doesn't do very well. So we're starting to see even more traction on it, more visitors, and we're going to go on a digital campaign through LinkedIn and Google and places like that to drive more traffic.
All right, so I'm gonna suggest our local governments publicize it, our local colleges, which are a bunch.
Yep.
Questions y'all have, Mr. Lindsay?
Keep up the good work.
We're trying.
Well, we appreciate you coming today.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
y'all.
Might let you come back next April 2023 for another update. That'd be okay?
Yeah.
All right, put her in your calendar.
All right.
Great. All right. Two things of housekeeping. We have plenty of lunches for the folks here. So those who have not gotten lunch, please go ahead. Those who get lunch, we are welcome. We have extras, so y'all can get up anytime you like. And then we have great news. We have a quorum. Is that right, Victoria?
Yes, we do.
By exactly a quorum. So remember today that your to-do list, a lot's about to get done because you participated, either in person or online. I think that's important. And I want to mention, we're thinking, why are we struggling a little bit for attendance? I think sometimes lately we've had some of our member government scheduled meetings the day of our meeting. And Ben and Regina, I would say, don't do that. It's the fourth Thursday. Every fourth Thursday, do not schedule a meeting for Thursday at 12 o'clock because you're going to mess up the whole thing. All right, so we have a quorum. So now we're going to go to the very top, determination of the quorum. We have determined that. Y'all see the order and contents of the overall agenda. Is there a motion to approve the content of the overall agenda?
So move.
All right, and we have a motion.
Second.
Second. All right, any discussion? If not, are you in favor of the agenda? Please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? And the agenda is approved. Appreciate you all online joining in with this and participating. I'll make sure to pause. All right, so we've done all 4 through 7. I appreciate Mr. Lindsay. Now we're going to go to the consent agenda. There's a lot of good things there. So I just want to briefly go over them because I hope you'll, if we approve them, you'll say, wow, we got some things done today and the COG's getting things done. Number 1, we received the minutes of the March 24th meeting. Number 2, City of Newberry Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan, which later we'll see on one of the reports that'll be done by June 2023. Number 3, the Macedonia Church Road resurfacing project. That's in Newberry County. It's a main road to Drew Island and a priority of the local DOT. Number 4, the Lower Saluda Greenway. This is the first money. Reginald's at 1.5 million. Or Mr. Sprouse, 1.5 million to get that started. That's an exciting project. Number 5, the South Main Street, 849,000, I believe, approximately. That's going to go into the pot. They're going to rebid it. I understand, Ben and Reginald, and hopefully get a good price, and we'll have some great improvements to South Main and Columbia. And then we have additional money that's come through, both from the NPO and the rural. The NPO will go to 21,900,000, so that's up some, and the RPO will go to 4 million, so that's up some as well. So I think that's pretty interesting. I want to review that. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Motion. We have Second.
Second.
Mr. Davis, any questions or discussion? If not, if you are in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 That is approved. That's a lot of things. Ben, I'm gonna do something unusual. I'm gonna ask ourselves to give ourselves and the staff a round of applause for all these comments. All right, so that's done. Now regular agenda, still action items, quarterly financial status report. Mr. Ben Malden, item 7 in your enclosures.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, with the blue enclosure in the packet. And this financial status report shows that revenues continue to be higher than expenditures. We're working on several capital improvement projects that I told you about last quarter. We are working on getting the carpet replaced throughout the whole entire building, as well as replacement of 2 to 3 of our HVAC units and some office furniture for the staff. We're looking at replacing the chairs for the staff. We have also hired 4 vacant positions in the aging department, as well as filled the director of finance position. We're still in the process of working on hiring a regional planner that will work with Gregory. We're going to bring a revised budget to you that are going to adjust these budgeted amounts closer to the actuals for this fiscal year ending 6/30/22. We're also in the process of submitting or have also submitted requests for reimbursements for a few of our regional programs that we have not received the payment yet for or reimbursement yet. And then we are in the process of paying some large consultant and contract payments that will be reflected in the next financial status update.
Questions on Mr. Malden on the finances? All right, and so May, you have the adjustments in June will be the next fiscal year budget. Is that correct? That's correct. All right,
I believe we present that.
that's great. We appreciate you coming on board. All right, if no questions, is there a motion to approve the quarterly financial status report for the third quarter?
So moved.
Mr. Davis.
Second.
All right, any questions or discussion? If not, if you're in favor of that, please say aye.
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 And opposed? And that is approved. Thank you. Item number 2, 208, plan amendment, East Richland County boundary change. Mr. Sprouse, tell us about this. There's a whole bunch of yellow papers in our pack. In enclosure 8. Floor is
Okay.
yours.
Good afternoon. Just as a reminder, CMCOG is the state designated regional water quality management planning agency under Section 208 of the Clean Water Act. And one of our responsibilities is to maintain a regional 208 water quality management plan that focuses on regional sewer planning and coordination. Under DHEC regulations, DHEC may not issue a construction permit for sewer infrastructure unless that project is determined to be in conformance with the plan. And so we work with DHEC through an annual grant agreement to certify conformance with the 208 plan for sewer construction permits. When a project's not in conformance, then the 208 plan needs to be updated. And so we facilitate amendments to the plan, which must be approved by the COG board and are generally categorized as major or minor plan amendments. Minor plan amendments are more administrative in nature, and then major plan amendments relate to significant infrastructure improvements. So today we're asking for approval of a minor 208 plan amendment request to change the 208 designated management area boundary for East Richland County Public Service District. The boundary change will transfer 8 parcels along North Brickyard Road from the East Richland County management area to the Richland County management area. Sewer service to these parcels will be provided by South Carolina Water Utilities, formerly Palmetto Utilities. And this amendment will also change their private service area boundary on our maps. The plan amendment also recognizes a change in the East Richland County Public Service District tax district boundary, which is already included in our 208 plan. So these changes were approved by Richland County Council at their March 15th, 2022 council meeting, which meets the statutory requirements for changing the boundary of a public service district. And the 208 plan for the Central Midlands region requires a minor plan amendment for any type of designated management area boundary changes or private service area boundary changes. The COG Environmental Planning Advisory Committee recommended approval of this amendment at their April 20th, 2022 meeting.
Good stuff, Mr. Sprouse. All right, so a lot of good information in our pack.
I might add that the EPAC committee approved it unanimously.
Very good. All right, so been approved by the EPAC committee. It's been approved by Richland County Council. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Us to approve the 2A. We have a motion. We know who that was, by the way.
Second.
Who was that did that, please? I'm sorry. That was Mr. Lyman.
I'm
Okay,
on.
thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. I should have recognized that strong voice. Now, who was the second? Mr. Davis was the second. Y'all got any questions or discussion? All right. If not, if y'all vote to approve the 2A plan amendment request to change the 2A designated management area boundaries of each Richland County, those 8 parcels, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Sprouse, and all those involved. Item 3 of regular agenda, 2045 long-range transportation plan, Carolina Crossroads enclosure 9. Mr. Simmons, you tell us that Carolina Crossroads, it's been asked to be included in our plan. Is that correct? That's correct. And we've seen a bunch of documents in our pack about Carolina Crossroads. Y'all are all well familiar with it. How much money did you say it was?
$2 billion.
My goodness, $2.08 billion. And we're just doing basically a little bureaucracy here and putting it in our plan. Maybe that's not the right word, procedure. All right.
I'll make the motion.
All right, Mr. Drew. Second. All right, any discussion? If not, you're in favor of adding this to the long-range training plan, Carolina Crossroads, please say aye.
Aye.
And if you were opposed? Thank you, and that passes unanimously. Item number 4 in this agenda item, long-range transportation plan, rural intersection projects. We have 4 projects or intersections, I guess we call them, Mr. Simmons, that requested to be added for further study and analysis. One is at South Carolina Woods Church Road, at South Carolina 391. 3 others are in the Little Mountain area. I know the Little Mountain mayor's online today, and she appreciate these being studied. Is there a motion to amend the long-range training plan to add 4 rural intersection improvements for further study? Mr. Shealy, the motion. Second, Mr. Hudson. Yes. All right, very good. Any question or discussion? If not, are you in favor of this being added? Please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Chair, my hand was raised. You probably didn't see it.
I appreciate it. We right now, we don't have this, we just have the intersection. So I could tell, thank you. Oh, do you have a question?
I did, but I'm making a statement now, if I may.
Please do. We didn't have the, we don't have the screen up so we can see everybody's faces. We had the map on. All right,
Oh.
we're gonna go back, go ahead. And I'm sorry, who is this?
Rep. McDaniel.
Daniel, Representative, thanks for joining us today. You always, we had a discussion that you were always faithful in joining in. So Mr. Daniel.
I was late. We went a little late. Then I had another a meeting with the legal team. So thank you for allowing me to make a comment. I requested, and maybe it was sent and I just missed it, or it was in with some other stuff. But what I requested was the rural projects that we're working on through the COG with whatever other entities, in particular DOT. And I received some list of something that didn't quite answer my question. So if I can request that again and put it on the record so I can make sure I get specifically what I'm asking for, I appreciate it.
Mr. McDaniel, I was gonna reach out to you just to get clarity on exactly what you're asking for, so I can give you the proper information.
I hear that, but you reaching out to me after the next meeting I asked for it a month ago.
All right, we're gonna work on that, and Ms. Simmons, we're gonna put that on the agenda for next month. How about that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Representative. We appreciate it. All right, so we're going back to rural intersection projects. We had a motion and a second. Is there other discussion? And if you're online, I'm gonna need you to speak up versus raise your hand. Y'all don't mind, just because we don't have the screen for everybody. No other discussion. If you're in favor of this, please say aye.
Aye.
With enthusiasm next time. How about no's? We're losing, if it passes unanimously, which is good, but we're losing some enthusiasm, Ben. I'll try to get us going here. All right. Item number 2022-2027, the TIP Amendment Transportation Alternatives Program, enclosure 11. Mr. Simmons, we have some new money. Talk to us, please.
We received approximately $1.7 million in new money that we want to add to our TIP. We also want to remove the federal cap. We have a cap in the TAP program for $180,000. We will remove that and set it as a fluctuating cap based on the money we receive each and every year. Once we receive our call for projects, we will establish the cap for that year. Go to the next slide, please. Therefore, we're receiving $1.7 million for this fiscal year. We want to remove the cap and make it fluctuating. We'll set a minimum cap on the lowest level project, receiving $200,000. Request a resolution to certify the local match. Please remember that TAP funds must be spent within 4 years of the COG receiving those funds. And all applicants must have no more than 3 active projects to submit for a new project.
All right, what was the cap and what's it going to?
It was $180,000. We're removing it and we want to set the cap as being fluctuated based on the funding we received. So for this next round of call for projects, we probably set it at $500,000 per project.
Okay. And this is urban only.
It's urban only.
This
When
is,
will we set the flexible cap?
We said we want to start that now.
Each year we'll review it.
Yes, sir.
but minimum is 200.
Minimum is 200.
Okay.
Yes.
Max
And the
is
cap is the 500 is the most.
It's the most.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I got confused. All right, and I told you I was excited to say this. Just to review, how can someone here tap into the tip?
Tap into the
How
TAP program.
can they tap into the tap?
So each and every year we receive a call for projects, and we'll advertise that out to all the communities and whatnot. So you submit in by the deadline date, we review the projects, and for the projects that are reviewed, they're brought to this board for approval. And once they're approved by this board, they include it into the tip.
All right,
It
so
has
when
to
do you-
be spent in 4 years,
It
correct?
has to be spent within 4 years.
and just to review, when do you think that would be? Like in a month or 2 months or what? That you'll put out the call?
Hopefully next week.
Oh, next week. All right, so everybody's on notice. If you're in the urban area, which does not include like Newberry County, for example, that it's coming out. So y'all need to have y'all's applications in mind, correct? And last question, what would the deadline be then?
Deadline will probably be hopefully in about 4 weeks.
All right. So, everybody got that? If we approve this,
And
everybody,
for the rural communities, that's handled by SCDOT. So basically, these bills handled by SCDOT.
or they get more money too?
I believe so. But I don't know how much they'll get.
And can we add that to a discussion for next month? Because we want, Mr. Hall and I want to know about the rural areas, and so does Fairfield County and everybody else. How about check on that for us, please?
Yes, sir.
All right, so y'all heard all that. That's good news, an extra $1.7 million, and I hope we all get all spent. Is there a motion to approve this amendment?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Thank you. All right. All right, any questions or discussion? If you're in favor of this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
If you're opposed. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Good stuff. All right, item 6, the Unified Planning Work Program, enclosure 12. Senator, you give us a list of projects you're working on that, a whole lot of June 2023. Their estimated completion, so there's a lot to be done, some good stuff there. Did anyone have any questions on those? If you are in favor of approving this work schedule, we would need a motion.
So move,
Mr.
Mr. Chair.
Bell? I believe that was Mr. Bell, maybe? That's not Mr. Bell?
Livingston.
Mr. Livingston, doggone it. I apologize, Mr. Livingston. We don't have the screen, so it's a voice guessing game, kind of hard. All right, so we have a second, from Mr. Livingston. Any questions or discussion? All right. If you're in favor of approving the schedule, please say aye.
Aye.
There's some enthusiasm. Opposed? And that passes. Item number 7, Rural Planning Work Program Update, enclosure 13, same thing. This is the rural side, a bunch of projects to be done by June 2023, planning projects and the like. Is there a motion for these? Mr. Shealy, for the motion. Second, questions or discussion? All right, you're in favor of approving the rural planning work program schedule, please say aye.
Aye.
Pass out the shots and do something. Get it going. Caffeine. All right, thank you. We've done that. announcements, committee staff reports, regional gateways update. We're going to ask Gregory Sprouse to rejoin us, please. Tell us about the exciting regional gateways update, Mr. Sprouse. That's on the executive committee. I got the wrong schedule. Hold on a second. Hold on. Chris White. All right. All right, announcements, committee staff report, overview of the Midlands Workforce Program. We're going to ask staff member Chris White to come to the podium, please, to give us an update.
Chairman, you say you're gonna put the gators back on?
We're going to talk about that in a minute. Is Mr. Sprouse still on? Ask him to.
I'm still on.
All right, Mr. Sprouse, we're going to add you to come back in a minute after Mr. White with the Gateway
Okay.
Project update.
All right.
Mr. White, thanks for all you do. Floor is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And just have some brief updates about what the impacts of our program are, a little bit of a snapshot in time of where we are as we enter the end of this current program. So for us, our program years run July 1 through June 30. We're going to start off by showing this is a look back at the prior 13 months of unemployment insurance. And so the three lines that represented are U.S. numbers statewide and the Midlands area, which is that lighter green. I want to point out where we've been, the ups and downs, the trend lines of all three, the areas being tracked, follow more or less the same, but the Midlands historically always trends well below the national average and well under the state average. So we're very lucky in that regard. It speaks volumes to the strength of the job market and the economy here, especially building off of Mr. Lindsay's presentation. So right now, through March, Midlands, we're at 3.1% overall unemployment average as an area. Each county is pretty close together within that. So again, things going very well with that. We've talked about what that means. And I guess unofficially, they would say about 4% unemployment rate. It's kind of the unofficial full employment rate, but it doesn't take into account participation levels that have been touched on. And many of you may have seen in the news, there's a task force that's been put together statewide to see what can be done about increasing those participation levels. So I mentioned all of those things that as a workforce program, we face challenges with that as well. So if you go to the next slide. This shows our individual employment and training program that we operate in Central Midlands, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, kind of what the participation levels have been over those last program years. So I'll start with the group in the middle that's listed as DW. You'll notice that that trend has been dropping steadily. DWs are dislocated workers. So that's the group that was laid off or unemployed through no fault of their own. So we're seeing just a constant drop in that. And it's the only area where we have not seen an increase in program years from where we've been in the last. But you'll notice we had that steep drop in 20 for both adults and youth. And where we are now, the adult population, which is anyone that's over the age of 18, generally speaking, is going to be either basic skills deficient or perhaps low income. We've seen that rate already before the end of the program year exceed all of last year. And youth were at about 60% of last year's performance rate. So again, we've kind of faced a challenge getting individuals into the program with so many things we talked about the low participation rates. But we've seen a lot of great increases and a lot of new strategic partnerships that we have developed around the Midlands to increase that participation. So the last showed our participation rate of how many people are coming into the program. This is what we put together as a kind of snapshot in time. Ultimately, it's an employment training program. Everyone is going to need something different to become an active member of the workforce. But generally speaking, the individuals that come to us have a skills gap of some kind or a missing marketable skills. So ultimately, the most powerful tool we have is the ability to pay for training for individuals that need those marketable skills. So right now, what we represent here is the training that everyone is participating in. So on the legend to the side, IWT and OJT, that stands for incumbent worker training, and on the job training. So those are actually business services. That means that an employer is involved in the training of that individual. So we are looking at a little over 30% of all of our current participants are actually working while they're getting training. Those industries vary greatly, very heavy on manufacturing and production. Those are the industries that don't actually have much in the way of classroom training that we can work with. So the fact that we were able to tap into that is very good. The next green is CDL, the next one down is distribution logistics. We're paying for individuals to become Class A CDLs. That has up and down been one of the most popular trainings that we've seen, honestly, throughout the entire time I've been working in workforce. But it was also one of the first training providers to be able to bounce back from the pandemic, get individuals into seats, into training, whereas other providers had to figure out what a hybrid attendance would look like or what online would look like. Jumping across that chart, healthcare is 28% of that, and that's everything from healthcare aides to CNAs and anything that falls under that healthcare, such as dental assisting. And the two of those together make up almost 50% of the training. So those are two of the most in-demand occupation fields we see. So on the smaller side, 5% business professionals, so those are things like payroll certifications, and represented there in the teal is in the IT training program. And we talked about in the good news section for workforce, the create opportunity. Those individuals are actually not factored into this based on when this report ran. That group began on Monday, so this ad hoc data is from last week. So that's actually not captured in that. So that's increased quite a bit as well. Let's talk there. Any questions about the industries we are working and training individuals to serve? Just like to point this out, this is one of the roles of the Workforce Department and for the Midlands Workforce Development Board to make sure that we are using all the funds that we receive to target in-demand occupations and where jobs are sustaining wages for individuals. So digging a little bit deeper into our OJT program that was represented at that higher business service position, where we stand right now for this program year is a total of 21 either active or successfully completed individuals with the OJT program. And on-the-job training is when we submit a resume or a candidate to an employer for them to consider, to interview, and ultimately decide if they want to hire. Through OJT, we would send them someone who has the skills to do the job, but bottom line, they probably lack practical hands-on experience. So our program helps close that gap. It's going to take a little bit longer to train them to be an effective member of their workforce. So OJT pays the employer back for about half of that person's salary during the training. So we got 21 that are active and 18 that are pending hire. We hope in the next couple of weeks to almost double that number. The positions represented there, of the active, that's a total of 7 different employers and 12 more that fall under that pending range. Of all the OJTs we've placed in QI21, we have a target range for our service providers to hit at least $13 per hour is the average. We're trending slightly above that, $13.34. The wage range represented is at the very bottom is $11 per hour, and it ranges up to $18. I will point out that the U.S. Department of Labor caps where we can reimburse OJT, and I believe it's $19.03 per hour. So we're maxing out right at the top end of that range, and it represents almost $90,000 in funds back to employers reimbursed for staff time and spent on training for those individuals. And tracking our success rate of those placements, we've only lost 4 people for a variety of reasons. So we're calling that an 81% success rate right now with that program. So we do try to focus on when we lose anyone from that program, where's the issue? Is it something in the development of the individual referred to it? Was it not a good fit with the employer? How can we do a better job? We'd love to see 100%, but that's just not always possible. And it does speak to the OJT program. The individual belongs to the employer. They have hired them. They are under no obligation to keep them. So we want to make sure they are a good fit. And so bringing it back around to a higher level for the Midlands area of how we're operating. This chart represents PCR. That's what the state would call it. It's participant cost ratio. It is the measure of how much of the funding that we receive in the programs and how we operate spent directly on participants and individuals. Honestly, it's really only about 3 categories. It is the classroom training or OJT that we talked about, supportive services, or things like transportation, or if they need certification paid for after the training. So Midlands, we are second highest in the state. We are hitting 37% as of the end of January. And it is a performance metric that the area has to meet, set by the state. We have a minimum of 30% of our funds spent on this one. So yeah, that doesn't count the overhead we have to operate with staff that work with participants, the cost of operating the centers, and everything else that goes into program operation. And the last 3 bullet points, I'd like to just highlight the we come to the end of our program year, now what our priorities are, and we'll be going into the next program year. Summer work experience youth program, we are targeting to engage an additional 50 youth, ideally come into the program that would have a 10-week work experience, kind of like a lightweight internship that they can get full-time hours, 40 hours per week to run through the summer. So ideally, we'll be catching the new high school graduates and helping keep them engaged with the workforce if they have plans after graduation. The center standards or the SC work standards are our annual audit process. Sorry, not annual, it's every 5 years. We have to go through an audit and certification process for the center systems, and we are rounding home plate hopefully on that very soon and continue to certify the comprehensive center that's meeting all of the menu of service standards and the compliance with what we offer as the public workforce system. And finally, we are pushing for more employer hiring events, both we have a virtual platform option, but it's not been especially popular as employers have the opportunity to come back into our centers and have those in-person engagements that's been on the rise, and we will look to continue to do that, both large and small scale events going on site for employers, but also for the employers to utilize our centers as an opportunity to do engagement with the jobs. So that will conclude my update.
Good stuff. Mr. White, questions?
In light of healthcare issues and aging population, are we training enough potential healthcare workers through tech and other options to meet anticipated demands?
Right.
The short answer is probably not for the demands that we have. We are doing the best we can to make sure that we are getting individuals into those in-demand occupations. Concerns that I have looking at data is that it looks like our population is not going to be enough of the emerging workforce to support all of our demands.
Wow.
So just being honest, no, we're probably not. We're doing the best we can to get qualified individuals to be trained, and we know it's a priority.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes, sir.
Couple questions. This is the central Midlands area you're talking about, I would assume, the 21 jobs.
You said we're gonna do this today. So.
Okay, how many employees work for your?
Those doing that. Right here, so this is.
So we are employees in the workforce department. As part of the Central Midlands Council of Governments, there's a total of 9 of us that are part of the college. We have our service providers that are in all 3 of the centers.
But shoot, oh yeah. You gonna be able to fix that part?
Some of the funding we have to offset the additional cost of training.
If you give me one of your cards before you leave, I have additional
Absolutely.
questions. Thank you.
Great. I appreciate you working with youth, and maybe I sound like an old man here, but I just don't think youth work like they used to.
It's a bit of a challenge. I will say our youth program actually is a little, the age range is a little bit different than what you would expect. We are able to serve older youth, so we can serve up to age 24 if they meet the criteria for the program. So that's.
Appreciate
The
your
program
work.
does allow for more.
All right, well, Mr. White, we want to congratulate you on that 37% PCR score, the second best in the state. That's fantastic. And appreciate the good work you and your colleagues do. We'd like to give you a round of applause, please, sir.
Is this a copy of all the presentations today? Could they be emailed to us, please?
Yes, and I'll be emailing that later today.
Thank you.
Good stuff. All right, you're available for follow-up, of course. Mr. Hudson, you and others that maybe want to be in touch. Y'all got anything else there where Mr. White sits down? If not, item 2 of this category, Ben Molly, Executive Director's Report. Talk to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real quickly, I want to thank the board members that were able to attend the April 14th board orientation training. Also wanted to ask and thank all the board for filling out the senior survey. We have one more opportunity to get that information out. Special thank you to the City of Columbia and the City of Newberry for helping share that out on social media. Also, a special thanks to our Vice Chairman, Will Brennan, for his spotlight, working with the City of Columbia PR director to get out or actually to create a long-term voluntary ombudsman program, a video we'd like to quickly show to you. Michael?
Will still.
Hi, I'm Will Brennan, City Councilman for District 3. The Central Midlands Council of Governments is seeking volunteers for the Long-Term Care Volunteer Ombudsman Program. As a volunteer, you will advocate on behalf of residents in long-term care facilities and help residents stay connected to their local community. Various training dates have been scheduled for citizens to complete before becoming a volunteer. For additional information on upcoming volunteer programs, please call 803-376-5389. Volunteer today to become a certified long-term care volunteer ombudsman representative and make a difference.
So once again, thank you, Vice Chairman Brennan. We really appreciate your time and effort and getting that out into the community for us. Also, as Reginald mentioned, he's going to be releasing Section 5310 program and the TAP program here in the next week. We're happy to work. He's happy to work with anyone in the community. Just reach out to him for further information. And then finally, the grant writing training that we've had in the past, we've rescheduled or have scheduled that for July and September. First for the beginners training, and then September for the advanced management training. This is, as we have this training, we'll have some additional seats that we'd like to offer to the board and then possible staff members. That's all I have.
Good stuff. Questions for Ben real quick?
One last thing I'd like to, is there one more slide? I want to reiterate, I mentioned this earlier, on May the 12th, we're going to have Senior Day. Candace has been working very hard on getting this organized. Candace, do you want to, I don't want to put you on the spot, anything you want to add to this? Sorry.
Yeah, we need to publicize it for you. Sure.
Please
publicize it. Again, it'll be May 12th at the Medallion Center from 10 to 1. This is really for our senior providers of education and also just resources for them to continue to age in place.
Great, great for folks to get back out.
Exactly.
Well, thank you.
And then also, I know I'm out of order, but I do want to again reiterate the needs assessment that has been extended until June 30th. So please, again, if you know of anyone who has not filled out this assessment, please have them fill it out.
All right, Ben, how about send that one back out too? Y'all got anything else on that category? I want to go back to Gregory Sprouse.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Ms. Representative McDaniel.
Okay, just very quickly, I just wanted to say thank you and give a shout out and a comment to Sheila Bell Ford and Anna, forgot Anna's last name. I attended the workshop that they had where they were teaching about the living wills and all the documents that need to be pulled together by our seniors so that if they were to pass away, that the persons who they've left here to make arrangements for them would not have any questions, and the parents, and the family could maybe minimize disputes because everything would be written out to be followed. And they did an excellent job in putting on that workshop.
Very good. Thank you, Representative McDaniel. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Candace. Good stuff. Appreciate you sharing that. All right. That was it, Ben? We're going back to Greg Sprouse. Gregory Sprouse is going to tell us about the regional gateways. Mr. Sprouse, tell us about these new signs going to be coming in different parts of the Midlands and Columbia and Richland, Lexington County, I believe.
Yes, sir. I just gave the executive committee just more of a financial update. So if y'all remember, this is the effort to promote intergovernmental cooperation by developing landscaping treatments at key gateways into the Columbia area. And the first project that we're starting with is the SC 302 Airport Boulevard Corridor. So the Midlands Business Leadership Group has been soliciting private donations to assist with implementing this first project. And the Central Midlands Development Corporation, CMCOG sister 501c3 nonprofit organization, has been serving as a fiscal agent for this project. So in terms of the financial update to date, the CMDC has received $700,000 in actual donations, and we have a $1.3 million in financial commitments, which should be right around where we were hoping for to get the first project implemented. And then just now that fundraising is near complete, we will be working with MBLG and the participating local governments over the course of the next year to work out all the remaining technical details with the goal of being ready for implementation during the spring planning season.
Yes, sir, Ms. Murgo.
Mr. Price, other than Lexington County's $500,000 contribution, has there been any other governments that have contributed to those funds?
No, sir, not to date. It's mostly private donations.
So City of Columbia, who serves on the Airport Commission, Richland County serves on the Airport Commission. I know Casey's talking about donating all the water, but Richland County, City of Columbia, nobody from the other side of the river has helped, right?
I believe that is correct. I'm just pulling up my folder right now. Yeah, so this initial fundraising round, I think the intent was it was going to mostly be private donations. So the majority of it is private donations with the exception of Lexington County's $500,000 contribution.
I just want to make sure that everybody listening, that was not the original intent, but I understand.
That was not absolutely the original intent.
And I would say that if y'all church ever need a tithing coordinator, Mr. Murgo, I think would be quite good at it, don't y'all? All right, we appreciate the update, Mr. Sprouse.
Mr. Sprouse, would you do some research concerning the last time this particular effort was in place and what it accomplished?
Sure. As far as other types of like gateway landscaping initiatives.
That particular corridor in particular has been tried before, and we need to not make any of the same mistakes again, including maintenance of whatever goes in.
Very good. We appreciate joining back in, Mr. Sprouse, with good questions. Y'all give me 5 more minutes, please. We'll wrap up. All right. Under new business, y'all know that come regular, Kershaw County's had some questions. Mr. Burns submitted some things he wanted to look at. I'm going to just rapid fire. Mr. Simmons, ask you about them, where we are. Kershaw County, we'll talk about in a minute, feels that they are shortchanged by the coast. They're not part of the COG, but they are part of the coast region, Blue Gulf Elgin area, White Pond, White Wading Way intersection. And we just met about this about a month ago. And so I understand being in government a while that government doesn't happen immediately, but how about give us an update what we've learned in a month, Mr. Simmons?
We have the information that we've collected from the study. We've been coordinating with SCDOT. My intention is to start the planning process, the MPO planning process, and hopefully bring that towards this board next month.
All right, very good. The congested management plan, Mr. Burns had said that it didn't study the roads he were on, but there's new data coming from DOT. Talk about that, please.
SCDOT has now released their what's called HERE data. That data has now become available to the COGS and MPOs. We're in the process of collecting that data. Once we receive it, we can incorporate it into our CMP and address those corridors that Mr. Burns has brought to our attention.
Very good. Blue Gulf Elgin High School, it was mentioned by Mr. Burns. That's a tough spot. And you said, I didn't know this, that DOT has a department or area that works just on schools. Is that correct? Or talk about what we're doing there.
So I've been coordinating with DOT staff, and I've gotten the phone number of somebody who works in that particular area. I'm gonna reach out to them today to start the process of evaluating the concerns on Blue Gulf Elgin High School to see what kind of improvements we can make.
Well, that sounds like a lot of done in a month to me, Mr. Simmons. And by the way, if other folks here have schools they won't look at, they can get in touch with you.
Yes, sir.
But some of these schools are really booming. Y'all might have one that needs looking at for transportation. All right, so I appreciate you addressing those. That's what we're working on. Well, I bet so. I bet so, Mr. Hudson. You do have some, and you may want to get to Mr. Simmons about that. Y'all got some growing schools. Also related to Kershaw County, Ben and Reginald's handed me an article from the Chronicle Independent talking about that the Kershaw County would like to be out of the coast, as Mr. Burns has indicated before. And so they would rather be in the Santee Lynch's COG. And that's, at my understanding, generally turned by the federal government. But I know everyone here wants people to be happy. And I see nods of heads. We don't want somebody to be somewhere they don't want to be. I see a nod of heads on that. So we're going to email y'all this article. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, Ben, but you can send it. I glanced at it. But if that's what they want, I would think the board would fully support that, wouldn't y'all? They don't want to be, and they feel that they've not gotten good service from us. So anyway,
it might free up other money for other rural areas.
Well, that they would be in the urban area. Urban area.
Are they an urban area?
Urban, yeah, they're urban. All right, so Anyway, they are dissatisfied, and so that's the two things. We're working on the project. They're dissatisfied. They're gonna try to get out, and I would think the board would want people to be happy. And that's where I see the heads being nodded. We all want to be happy. I want everybody else to be happy. So I want to let y'all know about that. One more new item of business. You know, one of the things we have on the COG, our mission is to share problems or work on problems. Y'all give me 2 minutes. And I just want to say, maybe we should make an emphasis area about violence. You know, I know we've had a lot of violence in our community. We've had shootings in Newberry, so let's start there. I'm not, picking on anybody else. We pick on ourselves first. We've had shooting in Newberry. We've had in every county in the Central Midlands. We had the really tough day at Columbiana Mall. We had Officer Barr we talked about earlier. I think going forward, maybe we should make this an emphasis area of discussion. It's a national issue. I don't know if y'all saw 60 Minutes Sunday night, but the head of the FBI, Christopher Wray, was on there. He's very well liked and respected, I understand. He worked for Trump and now works for Biden. He was asked about the leap in homicide rates across the country of 29% in 2020. He was asked about the 60 Minutes, what's behind this leap. He thought the pandemic didn't help. He thought more and more juveniles were committing violent crime, interstate gun trafficking, and he says an alarming frequency of some of the worst getting back on the streets. And that's what I hear locally, is that, I'm gonna be frank here, I think some of our circuit court judges are playing patty cake. And Leon Locke called it catch and release, which he got some pushback on, but that's what I hear in Newberry. That's what I believe Chief Holbrook said the same thing in Columbia, watching the news. So I would like to get the board's approval or just nods of heads. We make this an emphasis area. I don't know where that goes. I think my opinion, and Ben and Reginald had a discussion about this, that it's the front end and the back end. We need less of our young people going the wrong direction. Maybe there's some programs we can highlight there. Ben tells me Mr. Sprouse understands that Brooklyn Baptist has a new program that he wants to tell us about. So maybe there's some good ideas there. Down the road, I would also say, including Ms. McDaniel, I think the legislature needs to be a little tougher on some of these judges, that have lifetime appointments.
Amen.
Thank you. And quick story, right before the pandemic, in Newberry, we had one of these little shooting outbreaks. And we had meeting with Sheriff Lee Foster, who y'all see on TV, and Chief Kevin Goodman. And they said they can identify the 15 to 20 people in Newberry County who cause just about all the problems. It's the same people over and over. And if we had those off the streets, everything else would be pretty much fine. 15 to 20, I would think it's the same in Lexington County, a little bit bigger number, the same in Richland, the same in Columbia. I'm reading William Barr's book, who was Attorney General for George Bush I at the end of Trump, and he said it was that way in the 90s, that we had the same people in towns across the country getting all, and I think that's what Mr. Ray says, the FBI, the worst of the worst. So anyway, that's something, if we talk about this, I would like us to maybe speak of a collective voice and support the law enforcement chiefs in our area and say, look, we got to be a little bit tougher on these judges that are, popping their fingers. All right, if y'all are okay with that, I'm going to study this a little bit more, maybe bring back some ideas. I think Watch Fox 57 has a program tonight about violence. Anybody see the preview of that? That might be on tonight. Is everybody okay with me looking at more reporting back to y'all?
Absolutely.
All right, maybe we'll have a forum or something. All right, we got anything else on the agenda tonight, Mr. Ben?
I just want to give a quick update on.
Yes, please.
Joe Perry. I mentioned that he had a lung transplant probably a couple months ago. I just got an update today about him, and he's doing, seems to be doing much better. He's doing VT and OT. No longer he's going to be moved out of ICU, so he's moving in the right direction. And I told the board I'd keep you all updated on this progress. So.
That's super. That's great. All right, y'all got anything else? Any other business? Item 8. Going once, going twice. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks for joining online.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Business tech, big round of applause for business tech.
Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
I had this.
Good,
well, you good? All right.
He says, at 1 o'clock, he says, there's no post issue, there's no campus, so I'm dropping the take care of eggs. That one, no problem. I said, well, you're about to miss it.